I don't typically play New Game Plus for games, but lately I've been playing New Game Plus for Far Cry 5. My name is James, and I started this channel simply because I love video games. If that sounds like you, please subscribe to my channel so that you can see more videos just like this one. Far Cry 5 came out in March of 2018. I originally played the game a little bit after launch on my Xbox One. Today, the game is available on both Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus Extra. I've been playing New Game Plus on my Xbox Series S, and I've been playing on the normal difficulty. Even though I am going to call this a New Game Plus review, I haven't quite finished the game yet. I've played about a third of the game. I played about 10 hours so far, and I've completely liberated John's region, which is the southwest region of the map. Far Cry 5 was my very first Far Cry game. Since then, I've played a tiny bit of Far Cry 2. I also played Far Cry New Dawn, which comes directly after this game. I played a chunk of Far Cry Primal and never finished it. And then I also played through the story of Far Cry 6. And although I haven't finished my New Game Plus run of Far Cry 5 yet, I've seen enough of the game to better understand what sets it apart from some of the other Far Cry games. All of the footage in this video was captured from my Xbox Series S, and with all of that out of the way, let's get started with the positives. I mentioned at the top of the video that I don't typically play New Game Plus. However, from my knowledge of New Game Plus, it does seem like the Far Cry New Game Plus is pretty standard for what you would expect from New Game Plus. You keep all of your weapon upgrades and all of your weapon progressions and all that stuff. Your leveling, your perks, but all of your quests are reset. You need to re-unlock all of your companions, which makes sense because unlocking all of the different companions is a large component in the main story of the game. And then you're also given the ability to go through the main story again. One of the things that I like about New Game Plus so far is that you do keep all of your gear from the previous game. So instead of getting to an area and not being sure if you have the tools to conquer it right now, or thinking maybe you should come back to it later, all of the tools are available to you right from the start, which I like. Another thing that I do like is that since you have all of your gear and all your stuff available to you and you are already pretty strong, I do like being able to just go and explore the world on my own without any companions with me. Whereas your first time playing through, I do feel like you need to utilize those companions in order to get through the game. Out of all of the Far Cry games that I've played, this one I think has the best and most interesting story. Out of all the Far Cry games that I've played, this one has the most interesting story. This completely crazy cult led by Joseph Seed and his siblings has taken over a good chunk of Montana. You go there to arrest him, and things don't exactly go according to plan. And then you ended up stranded in cult territory, where the only way to get out alive is to take down the cult. So far, while trying to take down the cult, I've only unlocked 3 of the 9 companions, and they are Boomer the dog, Nick the pilot, and Grace the sniper. And it's nice that within this one region of the game that you do kind of see this diversity in companions, that when you take Boomer with you, he's good at going around and marking enemies for you. Nick the pilot can be used to call in an airstrike or take out an enemy plane that's giving you trouble. And Grace is good at your more typical sniper support. I think I mentioned earlier that I have been mostly playing without help of the companions. I do just kind of like to do it all myself, and that's partially because when I do come up on a base or a group of enemies, I do everything that I can to take them out as quickly and as quietly as possible. All of my guns that I carry with me have silencers, except for, of course, my bow, which is a silent weapon. I've also put as many perk points as possible into maximizing my stealth gameplay. And that does kind of tie into one of my favorite things about Far Cry 5 specifically, which is that the game does give you a lot of options to play how you want. If you want to play it more like I do and go for the stealthy approach, you can. Alternatively, if you want to cover yourself in armor and go in with heavy weapons and go in loud and proud, you can do that too. There is also just something fun about how quickly and fluidly you can move around when you do get into a firefight. Also, I did want to go ahead and mention that on Xbox Series S, which is where I'm playing, the game does run at 60 frames per second. And while I'm not very sensitive to frame rate, I haven't noticed any dips or slowdowns while I've been playing. I think that's all for my positives. Let's move on to the mixed. These are things that aren't necessarily good enough to be in the positives, but aren't bad enough to be in the negatives, but I still want to mention them in this video. The biggest thing that I feel like I should mention here does tie back into how I said that the game lets you play however you want. Where it feels most limited is trying to use long-range precision weapons in like an open firefight. That, from what I've played so far, it does seem like if enemies can see you, you need to just be mowing them down as quick as you can. You don't really have the time to stop and aim at individual enemies and try to get a headshot or a headshot on this one over here or anything like that. That the game seems like it either kind of pushes you towards the stealthy approach or more of like a running gun approach. Part of that is because there's no official cover system in the game that if you're standing behind something and you want to hide behind it, you need to duck down, and then when you're ready to shoot over it, you need to stand up, shoot, and then manually go up and down, which can feel a little bit counterintuitive compared to some more cover-based shooters. I find the random encounters in the world to be very fun and exciting, that you might be driving down the highway and all of a sudden a group of deer run in front of you, that you can decide to stop and hunt some deer, or a bear might be chasing after one of them, or maybe you'll come up on another vehicle and it's housing some cult members that they see you and you have the option of trying to take them out quickly or trying maybe just to speed away or something like that. And then there's also helicopters and planes that are flying around, which, depending on how much you've done in the story, sometimes they might be friendly or sometimes they might not be friendly. And while all of that stuff is fun, I do find myself wishing that if you were engaged with one activity, that it would kind of slow down the stuff that it throws at you. For example, the number of times that I've been on the ground in a firefight trying to take over a base or something, and then some guys just driving by, see the commotion, and then decide to come and join the fight, and it makes the fight a little bit more difficult, which that one is probably the best case scenario. A little bit worse than that, sometimes you might be trying to stealthily take down a base or something, and then you just randomly get attacked by a bear. Or you might be stealthily taking down an entire base when a random airplane flies overhead and it sees you and alerts all of the enemies in the area to your presence. I think what I would like is for the game to calm down a little bit with the random encounters when you are already engaged with something. I've got a couple more that are a little bit related to combat. One of them is that, I don't know if this is true, but it seems like when you're trying to stealthily take down a base, you can have like one more guy to take out, and he'll turn around and he'll see you. And then all of a sudden, there's guys swarming in from everywhere. And so I don't know if those other guys were actually just hidden in the area, or if there's something in the game that tells it that when you are discovered, the whole area gets flooded with enemies. But I thought that was pretty noticeable as well. And then the last thing, kind of related to combat, more related to dying, is that it seems like when you die, sometimes you'll respawn like right next to where you were, like right outside the camp or something. And then sometimes you might respawn like on the other side of the world. I don't know how the game decides where to respawn you. And then the last thing is that I've always preferred third-person games. However, I'd like for there to be a third-person option when you're driving vehicles. Even when I'm driving like a normal car or something, if I'm staying on a road in first person, it's okay. But it feels like the game wants you to kind of take them off-road and kind of weave through the forest, and you really can't do that without having full visibility of the sides of your vehicle. Anytime I try to go off-road for like a minute, all of a sudden I get wedged between two trees and then I just end up walking. Same goes for airplanes and helicopters. You can look around the cockpit that you're sitting in, but it's completely separate than actually steering the vehicle, and it makes directing the vehicle and understanding like what you're doing very difficult. So I had a pretty hard time adjusting to first-person vehicles. Unfortunately, that does bring us to the negatives. Before I give my negatives, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel so that you get suggested more of my videos. As for negatives, these are both going to kind of tie into things that I talked about earlier. First one, animals. Animals are super tough and super aggressive, which isn't that big of a deal if animals were not constantly running after you and attacking you every time something really important was going on. It takes so much firepower to defeat even a simple animal like a cow or a boar or a bear that if you're in the middle of a firefight and you get attacked by an animal, you might as well just not even try. The second is that there are so many planes just flying around looking for you. It seems like anywhere I go, there's a plane just ready to like chase me down, which can get pretty annoying when planes aren't particularly easy to deal with. After you unlock the companion Nick, he can kind of help you out with air support a little bit and kind of distract those planes a little bit. But in the early hours of the game, I would find myself just running from bush to bush, trying to avoid using vehicles, and I don't think that's what they intended when they were making the game. Guys, that's all that I have to say about Far Cry 5 New Game Plus. In the comment section, please let me know what you think of Far Cry 5. And until next time, the best way to keep up with me is on Twitter and on Instagram at James_Solar and on Blue Sky at jamessolar.bsky.social. Thanks, guys.